And we are live. What's good, y'all? It's your man, DL Saint. Welcome. I really want to know podcast, man. How y'all feeling out there? How y'all feeling? Hope I was well on your end, man. So, yeah, man, we're gonna get into it today, man. Like, you guys know that I got myself into a little bit of trouble. I am diagnosed with PTSD, and one day back in January, some dude was talking to me, and he got the business, and I wound up in jail. I was locked up for 65 days. I didn't get the jail time for the guy. It was the charge I was facing was a misdemeanor battery. He got the business, but not really. I mean, he didn't get hurt. It was no blood, no broken bones, no black eyes, no bloody nose, nothing like that. But because of some stuff within the system having to do with the lawyer and missing court hearings, I wound up missing a court hearing, and I got taken in custody for that. So I did 65 days of a 90-day sentence for that. And it just, most people don't realize how convoluted the justice system is and how things work. So this thing with the Tates, I can only imagine how complex and convoluted this thing is, man. We're talking about two guys dealing with three countries and treaties, and they have been taken into custody now. So we're going to get into it. And I just want to start off by saying that I am no legal expert by no stretch of the imagination. I am a retired air traffic controller. That was my thing. But we're going to use AI, and I'm going to do my best to put this through the old think tank. Right? So you guys are wondering, what am I talking about? We're just going to try to use the old
think tank. Arch. Nothing gets past the old think tank. Nothing.
And we're going to try to put this together. So if you are some sort of legal expert, if you are an attorney or a prosecutor or a judge and you know about this stuff, especially about extradition and treaties and stuff like that, I really want to hear from you. But if you're just like me and you're just kind of doing your own research and, we're just trying to piece it together, I want to hear from you too. So without any further delay, let's get into it. And we are live. What's good, y'all? Welcome to the I Really Want to Know podcast, y'all. Get some indeed, man. So yeah, we're gonna push forward, man. Appreciate everyone jumping in here. Again, I am DL Saint. This is the I Really Want to Know podcast, man. I'm a retired air traffic controller, stand-up comedian, and I'm an entrepreneur because I'm retired. So I got a whole bunch of stuff to do. My biggest responsibility and the best job I have in the whole wide world is I am a single dad. So that is my number one priority. And my little one, well, my not so little one is almost grown, but still, that's the job I love most. But hey, man, we're going to go through this Tate thing, man. So, and as we do on every Tuesday, we talk about crime and punishment here in America. Like I said, I just wanted full disclosure for those who don't know me. I want you guys kind of know where I'm coming from with this. And on Tuesdays, we talk about everything crime related. And then we talk about how the system works and like stuff like, you name it, bro. Anything you see in the headlines, plus just everyday normal stuff. Whenever you deal with the criminal justice system in America, telling you right now, I don't care what you got to do to get the money, legally, of course. Get you an attorney. Get you a proper attorney. Do not use the public defender. Don't do it. I don't care how simple your case may be. Do not use the public defender. You will definitely live to regret it. There's no such thing as a layup or a slam dunk in the justice system. If you got a PD, a public defender, you're going to be the one getting slam dunked. So just keep that in mind. You're probably going to have to drop, anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 to get yourself competent legal representation and go from there. So the Tate brothers, right? So we're going to get into the law, not the drama. There's a lot of people out there who cannot stand the Tate brothers. I get it. Andrew Tate, extremely controversial. He's been out here for years doing his thing, made a ton of money. And a lot of people don't like Andrew Tate because their kids, in particular, their sons, their, little cousins, nephews, whatever, these young boys are drawn to him, or were really drawn to him at one period of time. A couple years back, he was, in fact, the most Googled man on the planet. Everyone wanted to know who he was. He was started making tons of money, just kind of doing the podcast circuit, especially on the red pill side, all up in the Mantle Swamp. And he made a name for himself, him and his brother. Now, I've met Andrew Tate in person once. Very pleasant dude. Very pleasant dude. And I can tell you, the Andrew Tate that I talked to versus the dude that you see on camera, definitely two different people, right? When a lot of folks, when they turn on these cameras, especially when they're doing this YouTube thing or they're rapping or they're doing whatever they're doing, preaching, all that stuff, they amp up the version of themselves, right? There's a lot of entertainment value. It makes a lot of sense. Why do people do it? Well, on the YouTube side and the social media side, to make money. Like, no one knows how much money the Tates made in that time period. From his first appearance, the first place I saw him on was Fresh and Fit. From that first appearance on Fresh and Fit till today, no one really knows how much money he's made. He and his brother has made. They've had the War Room, they've had some other things, and people talk about what he's doing, what he's teaching, and all the rest of it. But the bottom line is, people don't like the guy. They don't like the persona. They don't like what they've seen. Okay, fair enough, right? But what I want to do here is just try to, look at what's really going on and how all this stuff works, man. Because again, we're dealing with 3 countries. We're dealing with treaties. We're dealing with extradition requests. We're going to have to, we're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. And I can promise you this, Andrew Tate does not have a public defender. So we're going to get into this, man. So, and again, I am not a legal professional, nor do I have any real background in law. Only thing I know about the law and how it works here in America is what I just went through back in April. So, I got a real good look at it from the inside. And that's all I have. So I don't want anyone to think for a moment that I'm some sort of expert, right? So, but we do have technology, right? We do have the knowledge of the universe right here in our hands. And, so I'm use Chat GPT for this. I could have gone with Claude, but whenever I do my platform and I try to get this type of information, I use Chat GPT. And we're just going to go with the information we're seeing here. Again, please, 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 if you hear me say something, if I read something that's not quite correct, jump in and let me know, right? And this is just one of the ways that we can use technology to kind of help ourselves and figure this stuff out. You know what I mean? Oh, my people, Miss AKA ladies in the building. Shout out to you, sis. Good to see you. So glad you're here. So, and again, people, we're taking the drama out of it where we're just looking at the law. I have a lot of questions. I've had a lot of questions from the very beginning with this whole Tate thing, especially what went down in Romania. But, and I thought it was over. I thought, Tate had that boxing event where he got beat up by the YouTuber. And I thought that was it. I thought all of the Tate fans, all the Lost Boys out there went off and found themselves another hero. But mainstream media doing what mainstream media does have put him right back in the forefront. If the government's just left Tate alone, he just would have, faded away into the background, but they keep bringing him back. So let's get into this. Right. So today we're going to do something different. This is not about whether you like Andrew Tate. I just said that this is not about the red pill. This is not about politics. Today we're looking strictly at the law. Right. And again, I've used Chat GPT on this, guys. So, sometimes AI goes to sleep on you and you get some crazy information. So if anything isn't copacetic and you know different, please correct me. Just put it in the chat. Just put it in the chat. So the questions we're going to cover is, why were the Tate brothers arrested in Florida? What does the United Kingdom actually have to prove? Does being an American citizen help them? Right? Because you guys know the Tates are dual U.S. and British citizens. What is happening in Palm Beach? If you guys have heard about that or not, like what case is that? Who are their lawyers? We're talking about the Tate brothers. What is extradition? For those who may not quite understand it, right? We're going to talk about that. And what legal terms do people consistently misuse, right? And by the end of this, hopefully we'll understand the legal process better than most people covering this story. That's the intent. Again, I'm not a legal expert. I hope this works. This is an experiment for me. If this were about air traffic, no problem. I am an expert in air traffic control. I am a retired air traffic controller. I've had, well over 20 years as an FAA air traffic controller and over 30 years of experience. I began my career as an air traffic controller in the United States Army. So, and every now and then, you guys know I cover ATC stuff. I got some in the shoot right now. There was an event at LAX that occurred. There's an airplane took off and had an emergency right away, and the LAX tower controller actually brought the airplane back to the airport and had the airplane land. We're going to cover that. And the controller did a really good job, but I'm biased on that. Full disclosure, the controller actually working the airplane is a very, very good friend of mine, like a very good friend of mine. We started our careers together. He decided to keep going. I had enough, but we're going to cover that. I got that, in the shoot, so to speak. And there's a couple other things that happened. There was an incident in Miami involving an airplane crossing the runway with another airplane trying to take off. We're going to cover that one as well. But when we're talking air traffic stuff, man, I am definitely an expert. I have no problem talking about it with my full chest, bro. Full voice. I know it. But the law, man, I don't know the law. So we're going to go into the timeline of the case, right? So the Romanian investigation, we're gonna talk about in this timeline. The Romanian criminal charges, right? The travel to Florida, the arrest in Florida, because they were arrested in Miami just last week, I think it was. The United Kingdom extradition request, current status of that request, right? And that's where we're gonna go. So here's a question for the chat: how many of you thought they were arrested for a new crime in Florida? How many of y'all thought that what's going on right now was something brand new? Because a lot of people keep talking about all their new charges and their new this and their new that. So hopefully by the end of this, we'll get to see that. So, keep that in the back of your mind. How many of you guys thought that this is brand new? I ain't gonna lie to you, caught me by surprise. I'm like, what's going on with this? I had no idea that this was going on. And then, I kind of looked into that right away. I'm like, none of this is new. This is all the stuff from like 3, 4, 5 years ago, which was based on stuff that happened even longer than that, so well before that. So why were the Tate boys arrested in Florida? Right? The arrest was not because Florida charged them. I think most of us know that, but just want to be clear. The state of Florida did not charge them, although Ron DeSantis was threatening to take them into custody if they came to Florida. They came before, and Ron DeSantis said, if you come back, we're going to arrest you. For what? I don't know. But Ron DeSantis did say that. And who was Ron DeSantis? He's the governor of Florida. But they were not taken into custody because of something that they did wrong in Florida. The United Kingdom requested extradition. And from what I understand, it was a sealed request. So that's why the U.S. Marshals took them into custody once they got off the plane, as soon as they touched down in Miami or wherever they were. Florida simply became the location where the U.S. executed that request after the Tates entered the country. So that's why Florida is kind of in this, right? So an important point is being arrested does not equal conviction, right? Being someone taking you into custody, putting you into a jail, or holding you doesn't mean you're guilty of whatever you've been accused of. It just means they've taken you into custody. So many people believe if they see you in orange or stripes or whatever color jail outfit they give you, and they see the mug shot and they see the perp walk, they believe, that person's guilty. Nah, nah, not even. Not even. Like, that person is accused of something, but they haven't had their day in court. So You know, a lot of people like, yeah, the Tates are never getting out of jail. I don't know. You know, they got them, they're arrested, they're done now. I don't know. I don't know. They may not even leave America. We don't know. We're going to get into this. What is extradition? Most people think extradition means another country says you're guilty. Wrong, right? We know that. I'm pretty sure most people know that. Extradition simply means another country wants the opportunity to prosecute someone in its courts. The United States first decides whether the request satisfies the treaty and U.S. law. The treaty and U.S. law. The judge is not deciding guilt of whatever they're being accused of, right? Something to keep in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. They're in the U.S. U.S. officials have taken these people into custody. Now it's up to a U.S. judge to determine whether this extradition request first satisfies the treaty, like it's within the treaty, and you can do that according to the treaty. And second, it has to satisfy U.S. law, which I don't even know what laws we're talking about here. I guess the American judge gets to sit and look at this request and kind of look at the evidence, I guess, or whatever's presented in this request and say, hey, all right, this is cool. This is copacetic. We're going to go ahead and extradite you to that country. Or they're going to say, hey, this stuff right here doesn't hold mustard in our country, right? We're looking at this, according to our laws, they haven't really done anything that I can see in this paperwork. So we're going to go ahead and turn them loose. Or they might say, no, this extradition is in violation of the treaty. It doesn't meet all the terms of the treaty, whatever that may be, right? So, okay, we're going to let them go, right? Which means we're not going to get involved as Americans. America's not getting involved in this. You want to get these guys, get them on your own. Get them when they come back to your country, or they go to another country that has a treaty with you that's slightly different than the one we have. So those are the options, right? But none of this confirms guilt or confirms innocence. This is just all about the treaty, which is where the Tates are right now. Like they already had a hearing. The initial hearing is supposed to have several more hearings or more over the upcoming days, weeks, months, or how long it's going to take to decide if they're compliant with the treaty and compliant with U.S. law before they even send them back to the United Kingdom. So what does the judge actually decide? This is a good one here. The judge asks questions like, is there a valid extradition treaty? First of all, let's look at that. And I think most people like, yes, the extradition treaty with the U.S. and Great Britain's probably been in place for hundreds of years, I would imagine. Are these crimes recognized in both countries? Ooh, I didn't know that. So whatever crimes that they're accused of in UK, are those same crimes recognized here in the U.S.? And based on the crimes that I've heard so far, listed in this extradition request, I would say, yeah, these crimes are heinous. And these crimes we definitely prosecute here in America, just like they do. You're looking at rape, SA, human trafficking. There's a whole bunch of real nasty stuff going on. Probably some financial crimes in there too. So when you look at that, and by financial crimes, they might be trying to hit them with some wire fraud and, money moving across borders and stuff like that. So yeah, all of that stuff you would be prosecuted for in America. So of course they're going to get you, over there. So, okay, I would imagine that's going to hold up. Is there enough evidence to satisfy the treaty? Damn, I didn't know that. So there has to be, there's some sort of burden of evidence or evidentiary. Is that how you say that word? Proof or some sort of burden. Is there enough evidence to satisfy the treaty? Wow. So I guess the treaty has some sort of bar of evidence that the country making the request must prove, and the judge must decide that they have enough evidence to satisfy that treaty. And wow, that's probably something that the Tate team is hanging their hat on, because the Tate defense team is saying there's no real evidence. There's just a bunch of, claims by people who may or may not exist, right? So, okay, I didn't know that. Is there enough evidence to satisfy the treaty? Wow. Is the request legally valid? So I would say all of these, except for maybe the evidence to satisfy the treaty one. I think the rest of them are solid, but that third one, I don't know. It might be some wiggle room there. And then it says, notice the judge is not deciding whether Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate are guilty, right? Again, the judge is simply deciding, do we have enough for this treaty, for this, agreement we have between our countries, and are the crimes that they're accused of prosecutable in our country as well? And that's probably in there because maybe you're in some country somewhere and you're a dual citizen of, and maybe it's some sort of crime that America doesn't recognize. Like maybe it's some sort of religious crime, or maybe it's some sort of crime against the royal family. So basically the head of state, the king or the emperor or whoever is mad. America might say, nah, we don't recognize that. And remember, this is a U.S. citizen we're talking about here. They're both U.S. citizens, so we don't recognize that. We're not gonna uphold that. That the treaty that's not valid. So that's what the judge has to determine. That makes sense to me, right? That makes sense. Does being a U.S. citizen matter? Does being an American citizen matter? Many people believe they're Americans, they can't be extradited. Now we all know that's not true. We extradite U.S. citizens all the time. Back and forth. Like we send them out of the country and we take them in the country. When U.S. citizens go abroad and do stuff wrong, you just can't go out to these countries, break their laws, do all kind of crazy stuff, and then come running home to the States thinking, oh, I'm safe, home free. Nah, they're gonna look at what you did, and then if it's within the treaty and everything else we talked about, they're gonna send you back. They're gonna send you back to face the music. That makes sense to me. So yeah, I think we all accept, and I think we all know that U.S. citizens can be extradited. So yeah, it says they're Americans that can't be extradited. Not true, right? So we got to talk about how dual citizenship works. We kind of touched on that real briefly. U.S. UK extradition treaties. We got to talk about how that works. The U.S. regularly extradites American citizens. Citizenship provides rights, but it does not provide immunity. And maybe a lot of people is getting that mixed up. Like, well, because you're a U.S. citizen, you're automatically immune. You have automatic built-in immunity to these other countries. And that's not necessarily the case. Now, some people will say, well, I'm a U.S. citizen and I broke some laws in, I don't know, China or North Korea, and you get back to America. Well, I'm pretty sure, I don't know this for a fact, but I doubt if we have treaties for extradition with China and North Korea. I don't know if you guys know out there, and you're watching, put it in the chat. Let me know if we do or don't. Or do me a favor, look it up on your AI, whatever AI you're using. Again, this is Chat GPT. If you want to use Claude, you want to use whatever you want to use. Let me know what it says. But I would be shocked if, like when I went to visit China years and years ago, something went wrong. Let's say I beat somebody up or I did something, or I was accused of doing something, and I made it back to America. I don't think the U.S. would pick me up and send me back to China to face the music for something that the Chinese said that I did. I don't think we have a treaty. And if we did have a treaty, American judge might say, nah, this doesn't fall within the treaty. So I wonder if we have an extradition treaty with North Korea and China. That'd be a good one. Let me know in the chat if you guys check that out, man. Do me a favor. But U.S. citizenship does not provide automatic immunity. You do have rights, and this is the process that the Tates are going through right now. Andrew and Tristan are going through this process because they do have rights as an American, and the judge is going to look at that and weigh that against the treaty and what's being asked of the Brits. So let's talk about the Palm Beach case. Like, what is the Palm Beach case? So there is some confusion out there. I know I was confused a little bit. So ChatGPT is saying current discussion centers on federal extradition proceedings, not a Florida criminal prosecution, right? We know that. So there's a difference between federal court, state court, civil lawsuits, and criminal cases. And I think most people understand that. Most people do understand the difference between, catching a state case versus, catching a federal case. And a lot of times people are like, well, you committed a bank robbery. That was a state case. But yeah, you committed a bank robbery in 4 different states. Now the feds might come in so they can prosecute you on all 4 and not have to deal with the different jurisdictions. Because if you committed a bank robbery in 4 states, that means you have to go to each state and face the music for that crime. When the feds come in, because they got involved with the, investigation and probably, the apprehension and all that, the feds will just take over. And then they'll, and the states will just defer to the federal government, let the feds, wrap all those crimes into one, like under that one jurisdiction of the federal government, as opposed to, Texas saying, no, we want them out here in Texas. And they kind of use that too. Like, you've probably watched some TV shows like Law and Order or something like that, or watched in real time, where you might have someone who is wanted for like deleting somebody, wanted for 187. And one state doesn't have the death penalty. It's like some horrific crime. And the other state does have a death penalty. So, like the feds can use that leverage and say, well, hey, or even the states can say, look, look, we got you. And we know that Texas wants you. So we can just send you to Texas and you can face the needle. Or you can tell us what we need to know so we can catch your accomplices, or we can, you can help us solve these other cases, and we'll cut you a deal and we'll make sure we don't extradite you to Texas. You can do a life sentence here in this state, or we can send you to that other state and they gonna zap you. So, you kind of got that. But I think most people understand the difference between, state and federal law. And then civil suits and criminal cases, it's a different burden of proof with a civil case versus a criminal case. So I think a lot of people kind of understand that. So I think we can kind of just breeze through there. And I did ask chat, like, yo, who is the Tate's legal team? So Joseph McBride, that seems to be the lead defense attorney on this team. And there are other attorneys involved. These guys, I from what I can see so far, are doing a really good job. And the team is made up, I guess, of lawyers who can argue for the Tates in different countries. So you had like the Romanian team, but you also had Americans on that team. You got some lawyers who understand what's going on with British law. So I think they're part of the team. And then you have this guy here who's prosecuting some cases on their behalf here in America, in Florida. And one of the cases, like the Palm Beach thing, the Tates are currently going after a woman who falsely accused them and started all this and all of this craziness in Romania. It appears that this young woman allegedly lied. So it's a defamation case going on in Palm Beach. They say that's why the Tates were here. There's a hearing for that. And that hearing is supposed to be pretty important to this case. It's going to, I guess, bust the case wide open, because currently the Palm Beach case has like a gag order, so they can't really tell anyone what's really going on, and names and the information that's being, that's contained within this case. It's all there. And, the Tate defense team sounds like they're on the verge of winning this case. And once they win this case, it's just going to shed light on this woman and what she did and why she did it, and maybe prove allegedly that she planned this whole thing out, and have names and dates and people and amounts of money. And if this happens, and let's say that this woman is the same woman who they built the cases in Romania on, and maybe using this woman and try to tie her to the United Kingdom thing along with some other people. If that's the case, I mean, I could really put pressure on the prosecution in these different countries to lock these dudes up. So I'm pretty sure that's why they were in America. Right. And it seems like they're doing a good job. And at the very end of this video, guys, I have a quick press conference from these attorneys with the lead defense attorney, Joseph McBride, speaking. The guy sounds sharp. He sounds sharp. He sounds like he knows what he's doing. So again, at the end of this video, I'm going to cue that up and play it for you so you guys can watch it and make up your own mind. So let's get into this part where chat's calling this law school without tuition. Again, I've never been in law school. I don't know, but we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about some different definitions, man, like probable cause. What is probable cause? Enough evidence to reasonably believe a crime may have occurred, right? That's probable cause. You have enough evidence to reasonably believe a crime may have occurred, not proof beyond a reasonable doubt, right? Which is the burden that you have to prove in court. You have to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt here in America. I don't know what the burden of proof is in the United Kingdom or Romania, but here in the States, that's what you got to do. So So an example is smoke isn't proof of fire. It's enough to investigate the fire, right? So, all right, I see the smoke over there. That's not enough for me to lock you up for 20 years for arson, but that is enough for me to arrest you and take you into custody because we have probable cause. And then we can use the court system to see if you actually did do it. You'll have your day in court, your defense versus the prosecution in front of a judge and see what happens. So that, that makes sense. Dual criminality. Never heard of this. For extradition, the conduct generally must be criminal in both countries. Oh, okay. So that's that part they were talking about. The judge has to weigh if the crime, if the conduct is generally prosecutable in both countries. So, okay, so for extradition, the conduct generally must be criminal in both countries. It has to be against the law in both countries. This prevents someone from being extradited for conduct that isn't considered a crime where they're found. And that makes sense. That makes sense. We got Brother Mandrell in the building. What's happening, fam? We're over here talking about the Tates, you know what I'm saying, without the drama. We're just trying to really just get into the law of this, man. And as you know, Brother Mandrell, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a legal background other than, my little hiccup. But, and Brother Mandrell, he's a Green Beret. So if we were talking about weapons and tactics, he'd be the guy to talk to. I don't know if he has a background in law, but good to see you, fam. Extradition treaties. Countries don't just simply hand people over. That's good to know. Treaties determine eligible offenses, procedures, evidence, appeals, prisoner rights. Without a treaty, there usually isn't an extradition. So that's why I brought that up about China. Like, I don't think we have an extradition treaty with China. Maybe we do. I don't know. And in North Korea, I don't think we have one with North Korea either. There's probably a bunch of other countries that we don't have extradition treaties with. And that's where the criminals in America normally run. You're going to run to a country that doesn't have extradition with the U.S. And I don't know. Man, I don't know what those countries are. But, I'm sure we've heard it. We've seen it in movies, like back in the day, in the Wild West days, you go rob a bank, go rob a train, go rob a stagecoach, and then you head to Mexico. Like, get down to Mexico and then you be all right. You know what I mean? Because, Mexico and America had beef or whatever. They certainly didn't have an extradition treaty. So, and a lot of times back in the Wild West days, they would just go to a different state. Like, you could be out, out west somewhere in like the Wyoming or because Texas was part of Mexico at one point. So you could just be out in some territory somewhere, actually somebody else's country, doing all kind of crazy stuff and then come back to Ohio. Right? It's just like, let's get out of here. Let's come back. You know what I mean? So I think we understand that. So evidentiary standards. So reasonable suspicion, right? With reasonable suspicion, police can investigate. I guess this is part of police training. You guys know I'm always saying that police need more training. Police need to be paid more. They need to have more training. It should be more rigorous training. It should be a harder job to get. It should be a hard job to keep. But boy, they should get paid a minimum $100,000 a year and to have it. I really believe that. But I think it should be a hard job to keep. But but with probable cause, police can arrest. With suspicion, they can investigate. So with suspicion, they can investigate. With probable cause, they can arrest. The extradition standard, enough evidence to satisfy the treaty requirements, which is what we were saying at the very top. Right, Brother Pablo's in the building. What's happening, fam? Out there on the West Coast. Man. I heard there was an earthquake somewhere, but I don't know where. I don't think it hit in America, but I saw something somewhere. There was an earthquake somewhere. I'm always worried about my people out there on the West Coast. We know one day, man, it's going to fall down. But Brother Pablo said he just asked Gemini if the U.S. had an extradition treaty with China. Gemini said no. So, all right. And if we don't have an extradition treaty with China, I certainly believe we don't have one with North Korea. So I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of countries out there that America does not have extradition treaties with. So yeah, the extradition standard is enough to satisfy the treaty requirements. And I guess that's per each, treaty. So every treaty is probably not the same. They're all probably a little bit different. That makes sense. And this is why a judge has to review it. Beyond a reasonable doubt required for convictions. We all know that. We've heard that a million times. So, that's a very high bar. That's why a lot of people do get off. It has to be beyond reasonable doubt. So I guess that requirement that requirement doesn't have any weight on what the judge is doing as far as the extradition. The judge is just looking at they're looking to see if it's compliant with the treaty and all the other stuff, and if it makes sense to our laws, is it compliant with what we're doing? Because we're talking about 2 U.S. citizens. And it's like, yeah, man, if you had done these crimes here in America, you would be in trouble too. So we're gonna send you over there, kind of thing. But then once they stand trial, they would have, in order to be convicted, it have to be beyond a reasonable doubt. So, and that's all the defense has to do, is really raise reasonable doubt. That's crazy, bro. The new, like the Democratic Socialists or whatever want to do away with police. I doubt it, but that's a conversation for another day. We're going to talk about the Democratic Socialists. I don't believe America is becoming socialist or communist. It's just Americans are sick of seeing the corporate socialists. We have this corporate socialism out here where American taxpayers are always bailing out these big corporations and paying for all this stuff. And I think Americans have gotten tired of that, and they want a little bit of piece of the pie. So, but that's not the conversation for today. We're going to talk about that later on this week. I promise you. We'll probably talk about that on Thursday, because I do want to talk about the quote unquote Democratic Socialist Party. But habeas corpus, that's the next one. One of the oldest legal protections, meaning a person can challenge whether they are being lawfully detained. Okay. Even someone accused of terrible crimes has this right. So, all right, that's cool. That's, it's American right. You get accused of something, you have the right to habeas corpus. That's cool. I've heard that term 1,000,001 times, but I never really took the time to look up the meaning. Hey, thank you, ChatGPT, for telling me. A person can challenge whether they are being lawfully detained. Habeas corpus. All right. That's what's up. So then criminal versus civil, right? When we go into the law, we're talking about criminal versus civil, government versus the defendant, possible punishments. So under criminal, that's what that is, right? So when you're facing a criminal charge, like the government, the federal government, or the state government versus you, this is, or versus you. Possible punishments, prison time, probation, fines, right? The burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt to get that conviction. So there we go. I think we all understand that. Criminal. Civil, person versus a person, entity versus an entity, probably like, corporation, because a corporation in America is considered a legal person. Person versus a person, possible outcome, money damages, injunctions, no prison, right? So that's the difference between civil and criminal. And if you get a civil, like if you have a judgment against you in a civil case and you don't pay, I wonder if they can lock you up for that, because you're not supposed to be able to lock you up for debt. But that's how they get you in family court. Like in some states, they'll lock a man up or the parent up, mostly men, for failure to pay child support, but you're not in jail for that. You're not in jail for the debt. You're in jail because you're violating a court order. You're in contempt of court, and they lock you up for that. So it's kind of, we're not locking you up for a debt, which is illegal. You can't do that in America. We don't have debtors' prisons anymore. But we're locking you up for failure to comply with paying said debt. Crazy, right? It's crazy business, bro. It's crazy business. But that's how it works. That's how it works, man. This is why you got to get yourself a good lawyer. You want to exercise that habeas corpus, bro. Presumption of innocence. We all know in America, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? First thing it says, arrest does not equal guilt. Indictment does not equal guilt, right? So you get arrested first, and then, or you might get indicted and then arrested, but that indictment, what do they say? You can get a grand jury, because the grand jury hands down indictments. You can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich, right? So that's what they say. It was just funny because under the Trump administration, they were trying to get some indictments on people, and they couldn't even get indictments, bro, for some stuff they had to do with, I don't know, some of the people that Trump is going after, using the government to chase, and some of the immigration stuff and some other things. But it's funny, they were having trouble getting indictments. I mean, one of the prosecutors for the feds actually got in trouble for some effery that she was doing trying to get indictments. So yeah, arrest doesn't equal guilt. Indictments doesn't equal guilt or guilty. Charges doesn't equal guilt or guilty. Trial determines guilt. right? And you can get a jury trial or you can get a trial by judge. Most people stick with the jury. This principle protects everyone, not just famous people. Although it seems famous people get a little bit more protection than the rest of us, don't it? Don't it? You know what I'm saying? What's up with all them Epstein people? What's up with them Epstein files, right? We got the Tates locked up, about to send them to Britain. Yo, what's up with them Epstein files? What's up with the people in there? You know what I mean? Some of those people are working for the administration. So what was going on that island, man? What was going on with this whole Epstein thing? But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. Due process. One of the foundations of American justice, man, that's due process. Government must follow established legal procedures. Rights apply equally, whether you're Andrew Tate, Donald Trump, you know what I mean, Sean the Diddler Combs, right? A local citizen with no public profile. It's all supposed to be equal in the eyes of the law, but we know the more money you have, you know what I mean, the more access you have, you know, it's not always the same, right? Some people get a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like they ain't, you know, there was a woman here recently, like this year in 2026, ran over two guys with her SUV. These guys were riding around on scooters, right? I think they were riding either tandem on scooters or they were each on their own scooter. I don't remember how that went down, but they got run over by this SUV. And when I say run over, like she didn't just like bump them and nudge them and they fell off their scooters. Like, nah, man, she like boom, 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 ran them over, kept driving, left the crime scene. These dudes were mangled. She just kept driving. And then she pulls over into a grocery store parking lot. I don't know if she pulled over on her own or is it because law enforcement got behind her and pulled her over, but she pulled over in a grocery parking lot. And yeah, they picked her up. She had run these dudes over. They let her go home that night, I guess, but eventually they wound up arresting her. She went through the whole process. These dudes were mangled. Like one of the guys will never be able to run again. He could barely walk. The other guy, he was like really, really hurt. And she cut a deal with her lawyer and she got 5 years probation with one stipulation that on the anniversary of the crime, she had to go and do 1 day in jail. So she ran over two dudes. She almost killed them. She wrecked their lives, right? These dudes never be right. And she has to do 5 days in jail over 5 years, like 5 years probation. Now, let me ask you, do you think that woman has money, right? Or do you think that woman is poor? Right? Do you think that woman has money or you think that woman is poor? Right? 5 days in jail over 5 years. And she almost, like she's severely injured. I'm talking great bodily harm to two men. Me, I smack a dude around a little bit and I do 65 days in jail. Just saying. Right? So same system, same state. I was prosecuted by the same government she was prosecuted by, right? It is what it is. Money has its privileges. You know, it is what it is. And, you know, it says identity shouldn't really have any bearing on your situation, but it does. Money, fame, it does. And it could work against you too. It can work against you, man. So Brother Pablo is saying, if Tate gets extradited to the UK, they can hold him for months or even years until he has his case. Yeah. And it sounds like they might be trying to do that over here. They're trying to keep him tied up with extradition, keeping him locked up and try to run it out as far as they can. Luckily, Tate has a competent legal defense team. And the defense team is going to make sure this stuff is timely. Let's go. We already had one hearing already. I'm pretty sure they got other hearings on the calendar. And they're like, come on, let's go. They're not going to let the prosecution delay, or in this case, it wouldn't be the prosecution. I don't know how that part works. I guess it would be the ambassador or representative for the country requesting the extradition. You don't need a jury. It's just a judge. So you just got to keep getting in front of that judge. So yeah, they can absolutely do that to you. That happens in America all the time. You get caught up in the case, you get no bond, they just leave you in jail. And, you know, you just sit there and what they do, they're just trying to wear you down. If they can, you know, the longer you sit in there, the more open you would be to some sort of resolution. Like, hey, man, I already did this time. Like when I went through my situation, I get picked up for failure to appear. I'm in there for 32 days before I get before the judge. Like you can't go before just any judge. You have to go before the judge to issue the bench warrant, right? Because the failure to appear, it was a bench warrant. I had to wait 32 days. Yeah, I think it was 32 days before I even got before that judge. So I'm locked up for 32 days. So now you start doing the math, you start thinking about it. It's like, well, look, the state is trying to get, the state wants me to go away for 12 months for smacking a dude around. Real talk, 12 months. That's what they was hoping for. They wanted to take it to trial. There's no way in hell I was going to go to trial. It doesn't make any sense. They wanted me to go to trial, hope I would lose. You get that trial tax and get the max, which would have been a year, 12 months in jail, right? Or they were willing to say, okay, we'll do 6 months. If we get 6 months in jail, we'll let him go. They wanted, you know what I mean? They wanted 6 months. So I'm dealing with this judge. I'm thinking, all right, the judge understands that, you know, there were circumstances going on here. There was a public defender involved. I didn't qualify for the public defender, but they didn't tell me that. The judge suggested that I talk to the public defender's office, give them my information, and they will let me know. I did all that. It's on record that says, Your Honor, I don't think I qualify for for a public defender. She's like, oh, well, just do it, and they'll let you know. Okay. Right. I knew it was going to be about $3,000 for a judge. Again, we're talking about a misdemeanor case. I'm fighting a misdemeanor case, like $3,000. I'm thinking this is a layup, bro. This is easy. I'm a veteran. I'm retired. I'm diagnosed with PTSD. Like, come on, I'm gonna get anger management classes, maybe some community service. That's what I was thinking. I get picked up for missing a court hearing. There was a communication problem between me and my public defender, which again, I shouldn't have had, right? I shouldn't have had this public defender. The public defender left the office for whatever reason. I don't know if they left on their own. I don't know if they got fired. I don't know if they quit before they got fired. The judge was really frustrated with this public defender. It wasn't just me that missed that hearing. A lot of people miss hearings. So I'm assuming a lot of bench warrants got issued. The judge was mad. But I'm the one that wound up paying for it. And but I'm looking at it, I'm like, all right, the state wants 6 months. I'm gonna basically ask the judge to settle this now. I want to get this over now. I've been in for 30 plus days. I'm thinking, time served, and then maybe some community service or something, maybe some anger management classes. Worst case scenario, the judge will go split the difference. And instead of getting 6 months, it'll be 3 months. That's what I was thinking. And of course, when I went in there, the judge did just that, split the difference, offered me 3 months. I'd already done 1 month. It's only 2 more months. I'm already in, right? I've already been in. So, I decided, you know what? I'll take that. And then once you actually get your sentence, you're immediately going to get time taken off the top. So, the judge ordered 90 days with credit for 32 days. And then they take time off the top. I was in a program. So on top of that, so I'm in a program where every 6 days I got a day off my sentence. So it wound up that I actually did 65 days total. So I did another, I already did 32 days, right? So I'm like, all right. So I do another, 33 days, and I was out. It's like 65 days. So that's what I decided to take. I took that deal, right? Again, I'm still dealing with the public defender's office because once I was taken into custody, I couldn't get a lawyer because I'm inside. So and they did their best, and they were like, no, you shouldn't take that. You should ask for another bond. Like, I'm not asking for another bond. I was out on $1,000 bond. I lost that money. And then, it's like, you want me to try to get another bond. The judge could say no. There were other process. There was another program I could have gone into for veterans. Could have done that, but I would have been sitting there for who knows how long until my case was moved over under their jurisdiction. I could have been there another 30, 40 days, 50 days, right? I could have been there for another 4 months, plus the month I already did. It'd have been 5 months, right? That could have happened. It's like, nah, man, we're just going to do it this way. We're just going to do it this way. But you see how the justice system works? It's never like just hard and fast, like this is how it is. It was like, no, man, there's dealers, willing dealing going on. You got to deal with people attitudes. Like, does the judge feel generous today? That judge could have said, hey, you know what? We're gonna give you time served, and that's it. You're done. Your debt to society is done. No, nothing. No community service. No anger management. Thank you for your service. We're so sorry this happened. I understand there was a confusion with your lawyer, and that's why you missed your date. We're so sorry. Boom. Down comes the gavel. Have a nice life. That could have happened. That could have happened. but it didn't. Right. And the judge could have came down and said, no, the judge could have said, you know what? I'm going to give you the state is asking for 6 months. I'll offer you 5. That could have happened. And then I'm like, no, I ain't doing, now I might as well try to get into the veteran court thing. So you see what I mean? So you never know what's going to happen. You're sitting there and you just have to find a deal. You just have to find a deal. So, I mean, it's just one of those things, man. That's how the court system works. My bad for taking you guys on a tangent. You know what I mean? It's like, you like DL saying you were a bad dude. Hey man, I have an injury, man. I'm not a bad dude. I have an injury. I served in the United States military. I saw some things, man. And sometimes we come back hurt and you can see it. Sometimes we have a broken arm or we might lose an eye or we might lose a limb. But a lot of times we come back from doing America's business and the damage you can't see. That damage is inside. You can't see it. And we deal with it every day. And that's what happened, man. Yes, I am actually, I've talked about it on stage, bro. Brother Pablo, I'm working on, like, I got a 15-minute bit that I'm working on about getting locked up and stuff like that. It's not perfected yet, but I'm still working on it. But yeah, man, we come back, a lot of soldiers, a lot of service men and women come back from doing America's business, man. And you can't see our injuries, man. We're hurt. We're hurt, man. And like PTSD is real. Post-traumatic stress is real. And you don't have to go to combat situations to deal with it, man. I've had a lot of situations in the peacetime army that was more stressful than the wartime army. Again, I was jumping out of airplanes. I was a paratrooper. We were out doing a whole bunch of stuff. I've been on missions where we're on helicopters, like Chinook's big helicopters, and the helicopters go down. Helicopters crash all the time. Sometimes they make emergency landings. They do something, wipe something off, and then boom, they take off again. You just kind of riding around. So, I just gotta admit it, man. Like, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. I'm wounded. Right? I'm wounded. So it is what it is. Debbie, what's up? Join me the link. So you want me to send you the link? I might. I think I might do that. I might send you the link. Here's the deal, because I don't recognize you, so I don't think I've ever seen you before. Not that I don't trust you. I'll send you the link. You do me a favor, show me in the back chat. Like, I need to see your face, need to see you cam up in the back chat. Once I see your face, like, all right, that's cool, I'll bring you up. But yeah, so don't let me forget, because we're almost towards the end of this segment. So yeah, I'll definitely bring you up. And Debbie, are you in the law field or anything like that? Let me know. Let me know. But yeah, that's how law works, man. Like, there's no guarantee, with the law. Like that woman who accidentally ran over 2 men, she almost ended those guys. They survived, but they're really hurt. She gets 5 days in jail over 5 years. And you got a guy like me, you're suffering from PTSD, smack a dude around. And, I wound up doing 65 days, not for the act, mind you. I didn't do that time for, smacking dude around. I did that because I had questionable legal. I had a questionable legal team, a defense lawyer, a public defender, and I missed the hearing. Right, I missed the hearing, and that got me locked up. And now, once you're in, you got to figure the rest out on your own. Okay, what's the best move now? Right? It's chess, isn't it? It's chess. So let's get into common myths, right? Myth number 1, we're talking about the Tates again. They arrested him, so they already know he's guilty. I think we can understand that that's false. A lot of people, like, they see the evidence, they see the stuff that he was saying online, they watch his videos, and he's saying a lot of bombastic stuff. I ain't gonna lie to you, he's saying a lot of dumb shit, and very incriminating things. He said a lot of incriminating things, but here's the thing with, here in America, when it comes to court, when it comes to this sort of thing, it's not what you know, is what you can prove. And yeah, he said these things, but what is the defense of those statements? We don't know. Maybe it's a defense team is saying, hey, that wasn't Andrew Tate, that was Cobra Tate. Cobra Tate is a character created by Andrew Tate to make money. This is his business. He said all these wild things just so he can get money, and it works. It was all scripted. It was all made up. That might be a defense. Could it help him? I don't know. I don't know how they do it in the UK. Could it help him here in America? I don't know. Maybe. It'll be up to the judge. Like, there are a lot of cases when the prosecution will say, or the defense will say, hey, we have this video evidence, or we have this and we have that, and the judge won't allow it. The judge will say, no, that's inadmissible. You can't. I'm not going to let you have that in this hearing. Right? Chud the Builder is going through it right now. Chud the Builder, that dude is going to do some time. I was thinking he might just do 8 to 12, but now, bro, he might be looking at a 20 to life bid. They're trying to hit him with 60 years right now. That's what he gets. Chud the Builder, if you're a Chud the Builder fan, bro, you better start sending money to his books. I don't think he's coming out for a long time. But the defense was trying to get the videos that he made that was online of him harassing people doing this thing. They was trying to get that stuff omitted. And the prosecution was like, nah, we should definitely omit. This should be in here. This is evidence of him, his premeditation, his determination to hurt someone or whatever. And the judge allowed it. The judge was like, nah, we're going to leave it in. We're going to leave it in. What's the defense going to say? It's presidential. It's prejudice against us. He said it. He did it. That's what your guy did, right? That's what your guy did. So that's what it is. Why I joined team. Debbie, what language do you speak? Why I joined team. What language do you speak, Debbie? Like, where are you on the planet? Where are you? And I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm just kind of reading your text. How's your English? Real talk. How's your English? Yeah, he's like, I'm sure that woman is being sued big time. Yeah, it's going to be a civil case. We know the difference between civil and criminal. Perfect example. Yeah, she's gonna have to face a civil case. And what's probably going to happen is those guys are going to get a payout. Probably something going to settle. It's not going to be as much money as we're thinking, but it'll be maybe a few $100,000, or maybe her family agree to pay for their medical expenses or something like that. We don't know. But just because someone got arrested doesn't mean that they're guilty. And there's a lot of people, like I said, that absolutely hate Andrew Tate. They hate everything he represents. They want him locked up, and they see this and like, yeah, he's gone. Not necessarily. Like, if you're innocent, just go. Right? That's another myth. If you're innocent, just go. You can't are you just gonna go there locked up? Not only are they locked up down in Miami-Dade, but allegedly they're being held in PC, like protective custody, which means they're being held in isolation, which is really hard on your psyche. They're away from general population, which I don't understand why they would isolate the Tates unless the Tates asked for it, which I doubt. Andrew and Tristan Tate would probably have no problem being in the dorm. You put them in the same dorm, and it's a bunch of dudes in there, and I don't think the Tates would have any problems. I mean, certainly these dudes can handle themselves. They know how to fight with their hands. This is not prison. There's not going to be guys in there like sharpening up shanks and stuff. That's not how jail works. Like, you're just in jail. It's like, ain't nobody really trying to hurt nobody else, especially here in Florida. It's not the same kind of politics like you have out in California, like within the jail systems. So like, you in jails, like, those the Tates, most of those dudes probably don't even know who Andrew and Tristan Tate are. And even if they do know who they are, they'll just kind of be chilling in there. I mean, hell, Wes Watson's in there. Wes Watson's being like, he's held somewhere. He's in somebody's jail. I don't know if he's in Dade County or if he's up in Broward. He's being held somewhere. So like, in Wes Watson, I don't think is in, PC. So this might be a tactic just to keep the Tates isolated, to kind of, again, mess with them. You're just like, man, y'all going to keep me in solitary confinement for how long? Like, well, as long as it takes to get through, this warrant request or this extradition request. I mean, that's not right. That's not right. I don't understand why the Tates would be held in isolation. I don't understand that. But hey, it is what it is. Myth number 3, the judge decides guilt during extradition. False. We can, we read already how that works. And, the judge doesn't decide guilt. The judge just determines whether the request is valid and the request is, compliant with the extradition law, with the treaty, and, all the other stuff that we talked about. So we know about that. Number 4, the 4th myth, American citizens can't be extradited. We already know that's not false. We see Americans get shipped out of here all the time. They absolutely can. So Here we go. We got some questions here. I'm going to put these questions in the chat just so you guys can kind of play along and give me your answers. You can do this now if you're here live, if you want to participate, or you can do this on Team Replay. There's question number 1 in the chat right now. Should U.S. citizens be extradited? Should they? I think so. I think so. You know, but I'm not a big time criminal. I bet you some people out there just like, they would love to have it to where U.S. citizens can't be touched. You know, we can't be extradited. Could you imagine if that was the case? Like you couldn't extradite U.S. citizens? Bro, it'd be hardly no criminals here, man. Everybody leave the country to do their dirt, man. Shoot up to Canada, shoot down, you know what I mean, down to Mexico, man. Jump on a boat, go to Cuba. Right? You could do your dirt anywhere and then come back to America like, you can't touch me. Wouldn't that be something? It's like, hey, we won't extradite you, just don't break no U.S. laws in the U.S. Oh man, that would be wild. But no, I think the U.S. citizens should be extradited when they break crimes. You know, as you know, I think we should be compliant with the treaties to include our presidents. I think the president of the United States, if he breaks a law and is tried and convicted, should be, he should be extradited. But we'll never do that because they'll go after George Bush, Obama. They'll go after every president because every president's had to do America's business somewhere. We've dropped bombs. We've put warheads on foreheads, and that came from the president. So we can't do that. You have to protect the president. So if you can manage to become president of the United States of America, man, you're good to go. You should not be extradited, right? You should not be extradited. Should dual citizens receive additional protections? Should dual citizens receive additional protections? No, I don't think they should get additional protections. I think they should just get the protections that each country affords them. Like U.S. citizens should get U.S. protections, and UK citizens should get UK protections. I think it should work like that. But y'all let me know what y'all think. Brother Pablo said, Myron said the jail is very dangerous. That's not true, bro. That's not true. Take it from a guy who just got out of jail. That's not true. Like prison is dangerous. Going to prison is a different game, especially depending on what state you're in. Georgia prisons are extremely dangerous. Alabama prisons, dangerous. California is dangerous, but they got politics out there. It's like a different kind of danger. Here in Florida, from what I'm told, I've talked to a lot of people who've been in prison. Obviously, I was living with these guys. Florida's a little different. Is it dangerous? Yeah. But I mean, if you just keep to yourself, do what you're supposed to do, there's no real politics to get you in trouble. You don't have to deal with other people's stuff. And you can just be there, do you, be a good guy. And by good guy, I mean, you just a good prisoner. You just doing what you're supposed to do. You just doing your time. And from what they tell me, you'll be all right. But prison, yeah, that's where you're getting into, even in Florida, bro, it's shanks everywhere, bro. There's some warriors in there. So, but jail's not prison, bro. Jail is not prison. So it's not the same. So, Myron's not correct on that one. I don't know exactly what he said. He might have said prison and maybe you heard jail, because Myron knows better. Like he federal law enforcement. He knows the difference between prison and jail. The Tates would be just fine. I think in Dade, Dade County, I think they would be just fine. To be honest with you, like I said, they can handle themselves. Them ain't little boys. They can fight. Right. And that's all you really need to be able to do. Like if you can fight, you fine. Like and ain't nobody looking for no drama. No one's trying to get into a fight in jail. It's like it's an automatic 5-year bid. They're gonna hit you with an aggravated assault. You and the person you fighting, whether you were fighting or just defending yourself, it don't matter. You involved, you get 5 years, they get 5 years. That's how it works out here in Florida. So ain't nobody trying to get an extra 5 years. If you're in jail, you're either like, if you're a prison guy, you're in the jail, you're there for court. You're there for a hearing or something like that, and then you're out. Then you're gone. You go right back to prison. So you ain't trying to pick up no time, right? And the prison, like the guys who were in prison, they generally house them in a different type of dorm. The Tates would be in like a really a low-tier dorm. They'll be in there with just regular folks. It's not like they'll be in there with hardened criminals. So I don't understand why they have them isolated like that. So here's another question. Do you think the UK has enough evidence to justify a trial? We don't know that one. I don't know. And if you know, please send me, please send me the information that you have. We don't know. Oops, my bad. I chopped off the D from do. So me drop it in here again. Like But yeah, I'm curious to hear your question. Like, do you think there is enough evidence? You think the UK have enough evidence to justify a trial? I ain't gonna lie to you. I think, well, honestly, maybe they don't. Right? Maybe they don't. I mean, they sent over a sealed, request for this extradition. It doesn't seem like that the Crown Prosecution Service is upfront and forthcoming with these, with these allegations. So, and all they really need, they just need probable cause. I'm pretty sure they got enough to put together some sort of probable cause for the Tates, and that's all they really need. So I'm gonna go ahead and say, yeah, I think they got enough evidence. I think they have enough for probable cause. If they don't have enough for probable cause, that's a real problem for the Crown prosecution. And here's the thing, they have to satisfy a U.S. judge. They have to satisfy a U.S. judge. The judge is going to look at that. The judge is going to ask, hey, where's your probable cause? Is there some more to this? You got some more in this package you're going to send me? Oh, no, that's it, mate. Like, oh, that's it, mate. Oh, really? Sorry, bro. That's not enough. There's no probable cause here. And the judge will say that. Like, I don't see the probable cause. I'm going to have to let him go. So I'm pretty sure they have probable cause. They gotta have probable cause, don't they? I mean, that's just going too far. I mean, but that could be a play. They could be a play like, look, we really don't have nothing to hold these guys, so let's get the Yanks to arrest them, lock them up in an American jail while we go through this process. Let's drag our feet and let's try to keep them in jail for as long as we possibly can. If we can drag this thing out for 3, 4, 5 years, that's great. That's 5 years that we never would have gotten anyway because we don't have enough evidence. Is that possible? Sure, but I mean, that's just so dirty. And again, to get the Americans to sign off on it, I think will be a stretch. However, we're fighting in Iran right now because of Israel. So, right, it is possible to Jedi mind trick the Trump administration. I mean, it is what it is. And it's going to boil down to Secretary of State Mark Rubio is going to have to sign off on the extradition. So, there's that. Next question, should extradition hearings require a higher evidentiary standard? I don't think so. I think it should be the same probable cause thing. I think it should be the same. It should be, I mean, you're not prosecuting the case for this extradition. You just, hey, do you have enough evidence? And does this crime sync up with our crimes? Like, is this something that we were prosecuting here in America and all that other stuff we talked about? And if the answer is yeah, then you got to extradite them. You know what I mean? And again, if it complies with the treaty, then you got to extradite them, right? So I think that, yeah, I don't think you should you should have a higher standard for that. I don't believe so. The next question here. And again, if you guys are watching this on Team Replay, please feel free to jump in there and leave a comment to, answer those questions. Does media coverage make it harder to receive a fair trial? It can. But again, this isn't a trial, right? This is just an extradition hearing. But media coverage, yeah. If people hate you, yeah. You look at Sean Combs, right? When they caught the diddler, bro, I was like, yeah, man, bury that dude up under the jail, right? It's like, yeah, that dude right there, wow. Because we saw the video of him beating up on Cassie and all that, and we heard the stories of folks. But but when you actually begin to peel the layers back and see what's going on. And then like, man, Cassie didn't look as much as a victim as she looked. She looked more to me like an accomplice, but he did beat her up. I mean, he should be locked up for that alone. But again, there's statutes of limitations and this and that. And, the hotel covered it up and Sean Combs covered it up and paid. I mean, she got paid lots and lots of money, millions of dollars. What was it, 20 million, 30 million or something like that? She got paid. So, but when you see that, you see that in the media, people are like, I was like, man, forget Puffy, man, lock that dude up. But again, so that can taint it. Media coverage can make it harder to receive a fair trial. It really can. But they have safeguards for that and throughout the whole process. They got safeguards for that. Should social media personalities be treated differently in court because of their influence? No, I don't think so. But y'all let me know what y'all think. I don't think so. Um, but yeah, like it is what it is. I don't think so. I mean, it is what it is. We got financial frontier in the building, man. I always call you financial freedom. What's good, man? Much respect to you, Marine. Much respect to you, Devil Dog. Good to see you in there, man. Thanks for hollering at me, guys. Hey, make sure y'all go check out his channel, man. He'll be on Ronan's travel channel and stuff like that. He'll be on here. We're gonna bring the brother on this platform, and we're gonna be talking about financial stuff, man. I just gotta work out the details. Brother Financial Frontier, man. Are you on Instagram? I need to get a hold of you. Are you on Instagram? If you are, I will find you. Right? I will find you. I'm trying to find you and Ronan on Instagram, bro, so we can set up a date. I definitely want to have you on this platform and talk about your experience, man, because, good dude. Former Marine, a man who absolutely pulled himself up by his bootstraps, and is doing really well for himself, having a good old time in America. Well, having a good old time as an American, and the world is his playground. You feel me? So we're definitely gonna have you more. Good to see you, man. Let's see. Brother Pablo was saying Andrew Tate's supposed to get more protection since he is a dual citizen of the UK and the US. Those are Myron's words. No, he's not supposed to get more protection. He just get the same protection as any citizen under US law. And again, the treaty has to be compliant. Like, whatever the Brits put in this request has to be, this extradition request has to be compliant with the treaty. And again, all the other stuff that we said. So I'm not quite sure what Myron said or meant, but we're kind of looking at it right here. Tate's not going to get any more or less legal protections because he is or isn't a citizen, right? I mean, we just read that, and that's real talk, man. But at least he gets habeas corpus, and he gets his day in court, even for a hearing with this extradition. He can't fight it, and that's what he's doing right now. So maybe he gets sent back, maybe not, but we're gonna see. And yeah, man, like, they can't look. I was in Hillsborough County Jail in Falkenberg, bro. It wasn't that dangerous. I ain't gonna lie to you. The food was horrible. Like I almost died, but it was because my blood pressure was just extremely high. I'm writing a book about it now, by the way, guys. You'll be able to read about my experiences here real soon. I'm working on a book just kind of chronicling my experience there. But I never at any point felt unsafe. I mean, you're in there with people, like, ain't no telling what can happen. You in there with some bad dudes, 100%. But I never felt that, oh man, I had my back against the wall at all times. I had to go make a shank or make some sort of weapon. I had to fight. It never came down. I had some arguments, witnessed some arguments, saw some heated arguments even. But that's what the guards are there. The deputies took care of that. They got holding cells, they have isolation cells, they got all sorts of stuff, bro. They got ways to make you comply. Trust me. I never worried about it. But one day I'll do a show about it. But yeah, if Myron was saying it is dangerous, man, I don't know. I don't know about that. But it's like, again, according to Myron, the UK must have gotten women testimony from 2013 to get the case against Tate. Here's the thing, like, whatever the United Kingdom has, it has to be compliant with the U.S. United Kingdom treaty. If it's compliant with the treaty and the judge believes it's compliant with the treaty and the crimes that they're accused of are also crimes here in America, according to what we just read here, according to, ChatGPT and the internets, then they'll be sent back. But it's not like a slam dunk thing. It's not like, oh, we picked him up and we're just going to send him back to UK because the Brits asked us to, right? It's not that. It's not that at all. Cody's King is in the building. Cody's saying, no, I think the whole thing is just a continuation of the psyops. Taste will be used as the final nail in the UK's political coffin. The UK government and police are currently in a major? Is it in a majority? Is that the UK government and police are currently in a majority? I don't know how political it is, right? I believe that, of course, there's politics involved. Like I said, it boils down to people not liking the Tates. Andrew Tate doesn't make it easy on himself, for sure. And I think it boils down to, there's some powerful people that want to get these guys, 100%. there's probably some 1%ers in the UK that want to get these guys. And they're going to take every opportunity they can to get them. I think that if they sent over a weak case to an American judge in Florida to have 2 U.S. citizens taken into custody and sent to the United Kingdom, and that, like I said, the case is weak and there's like no real probable cause there, I don't see the judge being compliant. I don't see the American judge doing that, right? Because remember, this has to go up to, eventually it has to come across Mark Rubio's desk, like the Secretary of State, and he's going to have to sign off on this. Although that's pretty much, they say that's just a formality, right? It's a rubber stamp, but the Secretary of State can still say no and kick it back down to the courts. So, I mean, if the UK is trying to run that play, which, okay, it's possible, man, they're going to need a lot of help. As we would say on the blackjack table, you know, when you sitting there, you playing blackjack and you got the big bet out there, you got a couple double downs, man, a couple splits. And then, you know, the dealer flips over their card, right? And you're hoping like, man, I hope the dealer has a face card under there. They got like a, you know, the dealer has like an 8 showing. And then you hoping they flip over as an 18 and you're going to win with your little 19 and your little 20. And the dealer flips over and it's a 2. It's like, you know, there's a bunch of face cards out there. You're like, oh, we're going to need a lot of help, right? Probably going to lose this hand. So I think that that's what's going on. I think if there's some effery going on with the United Kingdom, I think they're going to need a lot of help. Like they're going to need a lot of help from the U.S. And I'm not quite sure if the U.S. judges are going to play along. You sent me an email, fam? It might have went into my whatchamacallit, my spam folder. So let me look that up. That's why you haven't heard from me, man. Apologies, bro. Apologies. Let me look that up, man. And I'm gonna find that. I'm gonna find that. So because I definitely want to get you on the show. He's like, all right, cut my message. Oh yeah, my bad. They cut your message. It wasn't me. Like, yeah, it's possible. Trump can't pardon Tate because Tate hasn't been accused of any crimes in the U.S. Trump could tell his Secretary of State to deny the request. He can tell Mark Rubio to deny the extradition request and set the Tates loose, you know, let them out of jail and send that request back to the UK for any reason that they want, right? Trump could do that, but Trump can't pardon someone who's who's committed crimes in other countries. Trump doesn't have that power. America doesn't have that power. So I don't see that happening. The U.S. government and police force complaint in the same stuff that are accused of Tates of much worse. Yeah, I mean, U.S. government, yeah. We're talking about Epstein stuff, right? 100%. We won't go after any of the people involved or who have been named in Epstein files, even though we can read what they were doing and it was horrible. We got names, places, dates, events, maybe be some video out there. We ain't gonna touch them. But you want to lock up the Tates? Okay. You know what I mean? Okay. if that's how y'all want to get down, you know what I mean? Okay. You know, and there's a chance. I think that there's a slight chance that Tate might not, Andrew and Tristan might beat the extradition request. I think there's a slight chance, but we don't know. We can't see what's in there. And I don't believe this is open to the public. But yeah, those were the questions. I got the last question in there. Should social media personalities be treated differently in court? I don't think so, but y'all let me know. I think I got that one in there. Got a bunch of questions in there. Yep, there it is right there. So social media personalities, no, they shouldn't be different. They shouldn't be treated different. So in closing, let's do this. So one thing I hope everyone takes away from tonight is this, right? From this, this evening, I should say. The legal system isn't supposed to care whether you love Andrew Tate or hate Andrew Tate. It doesn't care about hashtags. It doesn't care about podcasts. It doesn't care about YouTube. It cares about whether the government can meet the legal standards required at each stage of the process. That's how it should be working, guys. That's what's important here. That's the difference between the court of public opinion and the court of law. And I think we can all agree on that, no matter where you fall on this situation, right? That is what's going on here. That's what I'm watching, because if they can do it to Andrew Tate, they can do it to anybody. I'm here to tell you, I can't stand. What's the name of that? I can see his face in my mind. What's the name of that little dude? The little, white supremacist dude. What is his name? Brother Pablo. He's cool with Myron. What is that dude's name? Fuentes. Nick Fuentes. I can't stand Nick Fuentes. Never met the dude. I just don't like how he presents himself online and stuff he says. Right? He's a little bitty dude, truly a water boy. He's just a water boy who knows how to talk. Truly a water boy. Right? Can't stand that guy. But if he was in a situation like this, I would have the same show talking about the same legal standard, because we got to protect his rights, because we all have the same rights. And if they can violate his rights, they'll violate your rights. And take that, understand that. I've seen people have their rights violated. There are people right now sitting in jail that can't get out for crimes that don't even exist. I know a dude right now who's been in jail for years for a crime that doesn't even exist. And the court said it doesn't. The appeal court said it doesn't exist. The appeal court said, we got to let you go. We can't let you out of here. And then the judge who issued the first ruling to put him in jail the first time, put him back in jail. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't read the transcripts myself from the court hearing. There's some rogue judges out here. This is what you got to protect all Americans from. And if a judge you can't do anything to that judge. You can't lock that judge up. But the worst you can do is remove that judge from his bench. That's it. And I mean, dude, if I didn't see it with my own eyes, so this is why we have to pay attention to this, guys. We have to pay attention to this. Right? So there's definitely a difference between the court of public opinion and the court of law. And I understand there's a lot of people out here can't stand this dude. You know what I mean? I get it. But like I've said from day one, I don't believe he's guilty of the crimes that he's accused of committing. I don't think he is. I really don't. But we won't know until we see it. Now, that's not saying that he is an innocent angel and he ain't never did nothing bad in his life. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply saying I don't think he's guilty of the crimes that he's being committed. Period. That's it. And I mean, he's kind of reckless, like the way he's moving. Should just let him keep doing this. Let him keep doing what he's doing. He's eventually gonna get caught. You're catching red-handed and you'll be able to do something with him. But for this, what they're doing now, all they're doing is making him famous and making him money. So that's it right there. That's it right there. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I know I was talking about maybe dropping the link, but I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm just going through the chats, make sure I highlighted everything. Right? The difficult part would be that we treat them differently. Yeah, boy. Yeah, Catboy Lover. Yeah, man. You know what I mean? Because I can't. That Nick Fuentes guy, man, I can't stand him. Trump hates the UK, so he'll find a way to pardon the Tates. Trump has nothing to do with this, honestly, bro. Like I said, the best that Trump could do is instruct Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, to deny the request. That's the best he can do. And even then, if he did that, Marco Rubio could still just, oh, my bad. You wanted me to deny that? Man, I already approved that. They're on the plane right now to the UK. My bad. Next time. Like, Marco Rubio could do that. He could do that. Right? Or he could just say, hey, man, the law is the law, man. It was compliant with the treaty. We send him back. It is what it is. So one thing I do want to do, though, before we get out of here, let's look at the video from the press conference. This was like, what was this, Monday? There was a press conference down in Miami. And this is Tate's legal team. So let's check this out. Let me pull this up for you guys. If it's glitching, I apologize. It always glitches when I do the producing stuff in the background. So I'm going to show you guys this video, and then you're going to get to see Tate's legal team. There's Justin Wilder was out there just hanging out. Like, Justin doesn't know anything about the law, but that's one of Tate's homies. He was out there hanging out, and then there's the lead defense attorney there in the middle with the sunglasses on and the beard, and the rest of his team was just kind of filling in. So let's check out this video, guys, and then we'll wrap it up.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today went as expected. There was never going to be any fireworks today. Today wasn't about controversy. Today was about just enforcing Mr. Tate's, Andrew and Tristan Tate's rights and objecting to the extradition process. We are, of course, objecting to extradition because Andrew and Tristan are innocent. They've never done nothing wrong. They shouldn't be extradited for crimes they did not commit. They're entitled to have their day of court that we've been litigating the case for 3 years in Palm Beach County in Florida. So we're fighting extradition. We've assembled a team here. These are from the Roy Black's prestigious firm, the Honorable and since passed on Roy Black. He's a legend, and they're here. They have joined our team. We have a competent team. We have a wonderful team. We're looking forward to getting the best possible results under the sun. Proceedings have now started in this courtroom, so I am less liberal with what I'm able to say. But if you have any questions for me, I'll do my best to answer them in a way that's respectful of your time, of our time, and of the court processes.
Before they acknowledge that the brothers,
Go ahead.
They acknowledge in court that the brothers reviewed the complaint with them. Could you explain their first reaction to these allegations?
The allegations, their first reaction to the allegations is the first reaction that any innocent man or woman would have. It's garbage. It's a stitch-up job. They're after us to punish us with the process. The process is the punishment. When you drag somebody's name through the media, when you slander them, when you defame them, when you accuse them of heinous and terrible allegations, the process becomes the punishment until you can clear your name. They've been clearing their names domestically and abroad for years. This is just the next logical conclusion in that situation. Keir Starmer just retired or is retiring. I'm sure he's mad that Andrew and Tristan Tate had a lot to do with his fall in Great Britain. And there's a new guy in there right now. But this is the last vestige of attack of a prime minister who didn't do a good job, and he continues to do bad work. And I'll just leave it there. Innocent until proven guilty. We're going to let the court process play out here the way that it should. We're happy to be here.
Mr. McBride, the U.S.-UK treaty allows an exception for extradition if the charges are politically motivated.
Right. Politically motivated? I think any one of these trees, any one of these rocks could answer that question. Yes, it's politically motivated. There's no question about it. These guys went to D.C. to exercise their First Amendment rights. They met with members of Congress as private citizens. They met with friends in Washington, D.C. They walked the grounds of the Capitol, and 3 days later, they're in the jumpsuit. You do the math.
And that's the tool that you're going to use to get them free.
We have many tools. One of the ways that we'll argue, I'm not going to give away our entire arguments here, but we're certainly going to say that there are special circumstances. We're certainly going to use a totality of the circumstances argument, and that will be one of the things that we argue for certain.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Ultimately, if the legal process goes towards extradition, it will be up to the Trump administration and the Secretary of State to decide to sign off on extradition. What do you believe the administration is seeing about this?
Well, I appreciate your question. I see where you're going with it. You're fast forwarding to the end of the process. What's important to do now is focus on what's here and now, what's before us. We have to go in there. We have a conference coming up in a few days. We're going to set a briefing schedule. We'll make our arguments before the court. We'll see what this judge does. I don't want to make political statements about the administration when right now that's the executive branch and we're here in front of the judicial branch. And I want to be mindful and respectful of the people that we're in front of here.
Do you believe your clients have support?
I believe that my clients have support from every person who's a reasonably minded person, whether they're in the United States or abroad, elected or not elected. Everybody knows that Andrew and Tristan Tate are innocent. Yes. It's okay.
It looks like you're positioning the charges within the framework of being politically motivated, but the charges themselves don't seem to have an intersection with politics. Can you flesh out a little bit more why you're positioning it?
Sure. You don't have to have an intersection between politics and criminal charges for there to be a stitch-up job here. The man that I voted for office, who's currently in office, had millions of charges slandered against him all over the place. Some of them he beat, some of them he didn't beat. Most people who understand the process know that that was a load of crap. Most people who see this for what it is know that it is the same exact thing. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Right, there were multiple women who came and they were victims of the case. Are you saying that those women are politically motivated?
I'm not going to comment as to the women in any case. What I can say is that we have a defamation lawsuit against a false accuser that we're litigating successfully in Palm Beach County. That case is getting ready to go to trial. What I can say about the allegations in the United Kingdom, not a single solitary person has been identified. These are ghosts and these are phantoms. So we'd like to know who's accused Andrew and Tristan of what. And if we get there, then I can give you a reasonable-minded and intelligent comment about the potential allegations that come from these ladies.
One last point of clarification. In the interview this morning I listened to, you talked about your efforts, kind of forecasting how you plan to fight this if it doesn't go your way. And you said, I will heal all the way to the top of the food chain. Was that a reference to the president, President Donald Trump?
That was a reference to the Supreme Court. This is the judicial process. The top of the food chain is Clarence Thomas and the 8 other justices that abide there.
So, right, I missed it at the beginning. What was their initial reaction when when the brothers were picked up?
Their initial reaction was, "What's going on?" We've been, in the United States, hanging out on multiple trips for a very long time. We haven't been accused of anything of substance here. We're American citizens. We operate freely. We operate as law-abiding people. We went to see our Congress people in D.C. and now we're getting arrested. This feels political, and of course they didn't like it. No innocent man likes getting taken to jail. It's a horrible situation, but we're going to do everything that we can do with this wonderful team that we've assembled here to get them out.
Counsel, what is their home residence? Is it Miami? Is it the state? Where do they call it?
Rob, we're trying to figure that out right now. Andrew and Tristan are citizens of the world. I think it's on public record that they've been in between Dubai and Romania for some years, and we will sort the rest of that out in due course.
Just for clarity purposes, the judge mentioned that this wasn't a criminal proceeding, but the extradition process hasn't begun. Where are we now, just legally, clarity-wise?
So yeah, this is not a criminal proceeding, and what the judge was talking about is that the Bail Reform Act isn't the operative law here. We're looking at the extradition process. This is the first small step in that process. There's a lawyers-only conference coming up in a few days. Our legal team will talk to the government. The government will talk to our team. We'll converse with the judge. We'll set a briefing schedule for substantive arguments to be made at some point in the future.
You also posted on X about solitary confinement. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, solitary confinement is torture. When you look at the international law on it, the Nelson Mandela rules, the Geneva Conventions, solitary confinement is outlawed, prolonged solitary in 16 different states. It is defined as captivity of a human being for 22 hours or more a day in a cell. Prolonged solitary confinement is universally condemned around the world as universal as torture, as a human rights violation. So anytime you keep somebody in solitary confinement, what you're doing is you're keeping them there to break their spirit, to break their soul, and to break the psychology of the mind. It is an egregious misuse of the judicial system. And by the way, Andrew and Tristan have not been convicted of any crime. The Fifth Amendment of the United States protects them. It's not the standard of cruel and unusual punishment that the Eighth Amendment gives. It is the Fifth Amendment person. No innocent person can be punished while they're being held for any proceeding. Innocent and proven guilty, solitary confinement is punishment. It should not happen. My understanding is we're working to get them out of there as soon as possible. But if they're left in there for reasons that we won't be able to talk about right now, I'll be sure to let you know in my Twitter post. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless you all. God bless Andrew and Tristan Tate. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you in a few weeks.
All right, so there you have it. That was the press conference from a couple of days ago. I don't think there's anything new. He kept using the term "stitch up." That's like a UK term, right? We say framed. I've been set up, I've been framed. They say stitched up. He was talking about a cruel and unusual punishment, being in solitary confinement. Normally it's 23 and 1, but that's like the prison thing. Solitary in jail, I don't even know how it would work. I'm not sure how often they will let them out their cells, if at all, because it's hard to get to a yard. Like, at least where I was, it was pods. They were, and every pod had like a yard, like a little area as a box, like a 30 by 30, area outside that you can just kind of walk around in, get some sun. You can do push-ups or whatever, do your jailhouse workout. And then like the walls go up about 25 feet, but it's like 30 feet by 30 feet square. They don't have that, I don't believe, unless they have a dorm, like a pod that just set up for just, individual cells, and they just keep you locked down 23-1. Like they leave you in there for 23 hours and they give you 1 hour to go walk around on the yard. Which it's hard for jails to do that. They're not really set up for that. That's what prisons do. But I mean, he's got some points, man. He's got some points. You can see what he's arguing. They made a lot of references to Trump. His lawyers say he's a Trump guy. You talked about Trump. Don't forget, y'all, Trump is a convicted felon. If he wasn't president of the United States, he would have done some time. I'm not saying he would have gone to some, like super max prison or something like that, but he would have did some time. He probably would have been locked up in Mar-a-Lago or something like that. But the state of New York, he is a convicted felon. You can't get around that. I'm not a felon. I was convicted. I pled no contest to a misdemeanor. President of the United States, felons. He's got some felonies under his belt. But it is what it is. I didn't know that part about the political motivation. Like if it's politically motivated, that violates the treaty. Didn't know that. So, there's that part. Even ChatGPT didn't talk about that because we don't know exactly what's in that treaty. I guess if you really want to delve into this, you got to pull the treaty up. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll do a follow-up show and we'll just talk about the treaty itself and what it looks like. But I haven't looked at the treaty, so I don't know. But you heard it. You heard it from his defense team. That guy sounds competent to me. I mean, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He's really good at handling his questions. And like he was very well prepared for that quick, press conference. He knew they were going to be asking questions when he got out. And I just don't know at this point. I have no idea what's going on. Is it possible that Tristan and Andrew Tate could beat this extradition request? Sure. It's possible. We talked about how that could happen and what's going on. Will that happen? We just don't know. Again, it could fall down to the Trump administration might try to pull a fast one. Marco Rubio has to sign off on it. And if he refuses to sign off on it, they can't get extradited. So that might happen. Or the judge might look at it and say, hey, this is politically motivated, or this doesn't comply with this portion of the treaty. Therefore, we're going to release them and we're not going to extradite them. Or they can turn around and say, yeah, man, get them out of here. Put them on a plane. They're going back to Britain. So, and then, he said, he's going to take it to the highest court in the land, or he's going to take it to the highest authority in the land. And they will say, you mean Donald Trump? Like, no, I'm talking about the Supreme Court. So this lawyer is already prepared to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. Mind you, while this is going on, the Trump boys are going to probably wind up in jail. They're probably going to stay in there. I just don't understand why they're being held in solitary confinement, man, like protective custody. I don't understand that. Maybe something happened in the jail. Maybe something happened when they were going through intake. Maybe something happened when they hit the pod, and then they were put in PC. I don't know. Like that attorney kind of alluded to something. So I don't know. That's a mystery. But we'll see what's happening, man. I would definitely watch Justin Waller's YouTube channel because I'm pretty sure he's talking to the Tates. The Tates will have gotten a tablet, right? You get a tablet when you get locked up. Here in Florida, I know we have them in Hillsborough County. I'm certain they got them down there in Dade County. And on that tablet, you can make phone calls. You can send emails. You can communicate with your lawyer. You can watch movies. You can listen to music. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can order commissary. And here's something, I don't know if you guys know, this is something brand new, at least here in Hillsborough County. Now they're charging all the inmates who are in Hillsborough County custody, like the jails, $2 a day. They're charging the inmates $2 a day, like $60 a month. And they're keeping track of how much money. And if you don't pay it, they just hold on to, you just got a debt. That money is there. So I guess when you get out, they try to make you pay for it after you get out, or maybe they add it to your court costs or something like that. If you get probation, if you don't get probation, if you're gone free and clear, they just keep that money on the books. And then if you ever get locked up again, you'll come in and you charge $2 a day again. Plus you got your previous balance. So man, that's crazy. Think about that, man. $60 a month. And let's say you in there for 3 years, right? Or, okay, let's say you in there for, 2 or 3 months. That money adds up. And most people who get locked up don't have bread like that, man. Most people get locked up transient, homeless, they what they call them, housing insecure or whatever. They just basically don't really have a place to live, unemployed. I'm looking into that, man. So maybe next week we'll talk about that $2. I'm gonna see if I can get official word from Hillsborough County on this, because I looked it up online and they're saying, nah, we don't, they don't charge. Hillsborough County doesn't charge inmates, but I still know inmates, right? Because I just got out recently. My people are like, yeah, man, they're charging us $2 a day, bro. $2 a day. Like, man, they took it right out your books. Like, they take it right off your books. Every month, bam, they're taking a $30 off your. I wonder if they're taking it off your books every day. I wonder if they chip away at the money on your books. Like if you got $100 on your books and they just chip away, like every day they take $2. I wonder if they're doing that, or if they just wait for the month to go by and just rip $60. You know what I mean? So you had $100, they ripped 60, now you got 40. I wonder how they doing it. But anyway, it is what it is. Even for their safety, man, put them in protective custody, it doesn't make sense. They have pods that have, basically like low tier inmates, like people who aren't professional criminals, like real gangsters, real criminals can't get into these pods. Like here in Hillsborough County, they got the veterans pod. They got a vet pod. They got pods where, you really can't be touched. Again, Wes Watson's in there. Ain't nothing happening to him. You know what I mean? If they're in PC, yeah, they got separated. If they're in protective custody, man, they could have put them, because, every pod here in Hillsborough County, I'm assuming again, it might be the same down there. Every pod has like isolation cells. So if they were here in Hillsborough County, they probably would have them in Orient Road, which is where they do the in processing. They do have some cells and stuff over there. They got some pods over there. In on Orient Road, they have the individual cells. So you get your own cell with, like a desk, you got your bathroom, whatever in there, like, your commode or whatever and all that. It's more roomy. They could put them in there for 23 and 1. If it was up here now, do they have something similar down in Dade County? I don't know. Might have to find somebody who's been locked up in Dade County. But and if they were here in Hillsborough at Orient, they would probably have them on the same tier, probably right next to each other. So I think it's overkill to put them in protective custody, man. To put, to have them on lockdown like 23 and 1 or something like that. I think that's overkill. It doesn't make any sense, especially since they're in there together. You know what I mean? So yeah, that single cell does sound nice. I ain't gonna lie. If I was locked down, I would want that. Like y'all can leave me in here for 23 and 1. You got room. But most cells, when you get locked up, because all the jails down here in Central Florida are all overcrowded, they'll put you in a one-man cell, but there might be 3 of y'all in there. But again, if they want to isolate you, they'll go ahead and get you your own one-man cell. But anyway, that's it. That's all I got, guys. I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. So, as you can see, bro, I just wanted to do a show where we're not anti-Tate. We're not pro-Tate. We just wanted to like leave the drama to the side for a hot second and just kind of look at the legal side of this. If you're watching this on Team Replay, tell me what I was wrong about. Tell me what I was right about. Tell me where I was kind of in between on. I would love to hear from you. If you're a former prosecutor or if you know anything about the treaties and like international law and extradition requests, I would love to talk to you because I don't know anything about that. But hope you guys enjoyed it. Right? This was cool. I was hoping to get through this in an hour. It took us an hour and 42 minutes, but I'm cool. I'm happy with this show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. If anything, I hope we just planted a seed and then you'll go out and do your own research and look into this yourself. This ain't going away no time soon, right? We're going to be hearing about the Tates. You know what I mean? Probably every other week or every week. Every time there's a hearing, every time there's a something, we're going to be hearing about the Tates. So, we'll be talking about this more. I'm DL Saint. This is the I Really Want to Know podcast. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. Peace.
Nothing like I've ever seen. It's just a thing of beauty.
Darn, that's the end.
Thanks for watching. We really appreciate your support. And if you like that video, check out this one or maybe that one. We'll see you around. Peace.